Well, GOP spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany and CBN News chief political analyst, sorry, had a hard time getting that out, David Brody joins us now for more. Between the testimonies today, we heard Senator Lindsey Graham speak to reporters, and before we get started, let's hear what he had to say.
I'm asking you to address this new defense of mistaken identity directly. Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
Kayleigh, why don't we start with you? Your thoughts about what we have seen so far today. You had talked a little bit about the emotional testimony from Dr. Ford, but then we also saw Brett Kavanaugh come out swinging.
Absolutely. And what you saw from Brett Kavanaugh was what we knew he was, which is a man of character, a man of faith. You talked about that moment where he choked up. It was so emotional. There were a lot of tears from the women at the RNC and the men as well. When he said that line about his 10-year-old daughter saying, let's pray for Miss Ford, and what kind of wisdom a 10-year-old has to say that. And he talked about the women throughout the phases of his life who text messaged him and said, you are a good man, take deep breaths. And he said that came from an athlete that he was friends with in college who was a liberal, actually. So we saw a man of character, an emotional moment from both testimonies, and I think people saw that man of character that we've talked about.
Real quick, since both of you mentioned the daughter wanting to pray, we have that clip, so if we could roll that real quick, and then David will bring you into the conversation.
The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers, and little Liza, all of 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old. We mean no ill will.
David, some are saying this is the Brett Kavanaugh that they needed to see from day one. Talk about that.
That's it. I mean, that was it. This was not the Fox News interview, Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, it was relatively pedestrian a couple nights ago, and boy, he let it all hang out. It was like he had nothing to lose. He said, you know what? Don't put me on the Supreme Court, but I'm going to say a few things before, I'm going to have my day in court, if you will. And that's exactly what he did. Heartfelt, passionate, emotional, and raw and authentic. And I think that was the key. I said, remember early on this morning, we talked about Judge Kavanaugh does not need to show up today. Brett from Maryland needs to show up. And Brett from Maryland showed up today, and that could very well land him a spot on the Supreme Court. I've kind of gone back and forth today, but now, after seeing that, how do you not confirm him?
Yeah. Of course, we know President Trump, he is watching, and he likes a person that is a fighter. Kayleigh, do you think President Trump will be pleased with Brett Kavanaugh's performance today? Oh,
I'm certain that he will, and especially when he made that comment, he said advice and consent, which is the duty under the Constitution of the Senate to provide advice and consent for a nominee, has been turned to search and destroy. Yeah. And he said, you've tried hard to take me down, but you did not succeed, you did not win, and he fought back. And he made clear, I also should mention, that he does not disbelieve Miss Ford. He believes that something very terrible could have happened to her, but it just wasn't him that did it. So he was very compassionate toward her, but very strong and very unmistakable in denying these allegations. He swore before God, his God, that this did not happen.
Well, and speaking of being so strong, boy, coming out against Senate Democrats. I mean, I've never seen that. I don't know if you've seen that before. I've never seen that.
Never.
Never seen that. He just looked right at him and said, basically, because of you, I may not be able to coach, or I won't be able to coach again. I won't be able to teach again. I have never seen anything like this ever in, forget modern political history. Well, I'd have to go back. I wasn't around in 1785, but I've never seen it. And so it was just amazing to me to really just see him go after the Democrats like that. Though I will say, it does raise a discussion point. I'd be curious about this, Kayleigh, and of course, John and Jenna. But some Democrats are already now saying, well, how is he going to be fair on the Supreme Court if he's trashing Democrats like this? He did open himself up there a little bit. I don't know. It's what they have left, I guess, at this point.
He has his supporters, of course. You talked about President Trump in the White House, but he also has reporters there in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Let's go ahead and play that clip again of Senator Lindsey Graham speaking to reporters immediately after Dr. Ford gave her testimony.
All I can say is that we're 40-something days away from the election, and their goal, not Ms. Ford's goal, is to delay this past the midterms so they can win the Senate and never allow Trump to fill the seat.
Gotcha. So what do you two think? Are the Democrats doing this for political reasons.
Absolutely. And let's compare and contrast the way the two parties have acted. Republicans, the moment they learned of these allegations, they said, let's have a testimony, let's have Ms. Ford here, let's accommodate her, we'll delay a week. That's what they did. Democrats knew about these allegations in July, did not ask that they be investigated, did not say let's testify, did not share this with their colleagues. They waited until just before the vote. So I'm proud of my party because we took this seriously. We allowed this day to happen. It was made possible because of the GOP.
And they know, I was going to say, they know that the federal judiciary, I mean, it's part of the legislative agenda, basically. They look at the judiciary is an arm of their legislative agenda. And so this is it. It's 5-4. It's not just Roe v. Wade. It's a lot of things. And clearly this is the apex, and they're fighting for it. And they're fighting hard and dirty.
Clearly a lot riding on this. I think the interesting contrast that we've seen between Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh is Judge Kavanaugh with his calendars and with his clear, distinct memory, detailed memory of what happened versus Dr. Ford and some of those things that seemed a little more hazy, a little more fuzzy. So I wonder how that will play out among people who are watching the hearings and really trying to take note to decide whose version of the truth is the truth.
Yeah. That's right. And he said, these allegations were not just uncorroborated, they have been refuted. And he listed it, his opening statement went about 30 minutes. Yeah. He refuted point by refuted point by point, said I was not even in D.C. in the summer on the weekends in 1982. He listed all 4 of the individuals who denied that this gathering ever existed. So he gave very strong details, documented history in what was a 30-minute strong opening statement.
And, can I real quick, before we've talked about this, is he said, she said, and, who do you believe? But I think Kavanaugh went further today on that. I mean, I think he basically, and he wasn't appealing to Americans, he was just letting it all hang out. But I think Americans hearing that go, boy, you know what? I mean, this guy's life has just been turned upside down. He appealed to not that he was doing it on purpose. He wasn't trying to appeal to Americans at all. I think he was just speaking from the heart. But I think Americans see that and go, give this guy a break. I mean, it'd be one thing if there was a solid case against him, but if there's not a solid case against him, clearly this guy is distraught. His family has been ruined. He's got 2 small children. I don't know. I just think the heartstrings part of this equation played very well for Brett Kavanaugh today.
Yeah, of course, there's the whole process and people saying that it has really been smeared with Brett Kavanaugh and just the tactics that have been employed here. So we'll see what happens from here on out.
Well, Kaylee, David, that's all that we have for right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys.